Sweta, Chawla, joining me today on Instagram live here. She just had a wonderful interview with me a few weeks ago that has now aired on today's podcast of the Connect with Sheila Botelho podcast. I'm really excited to have a follow-up kind of encore chat with her, see what she's been up to since we spoke, and also to talk more about some programs that she has beginning soon. You'll love her story. If you haven't listened to it already, go to the podcast. You can check out the link in my bio. It'll take you right to my podcast link. And you can also listen to the Connect podcast with Sheila Botelho at anywhere you listen to podcasts. And I really enjoyed the conversation. I hope that you do also. It is really, I'll just give you a little bit of background on what we're talking about. Our conversation was basically talking about how to shift what you're doing in your life if you're having maybe a career shift or a time in your life where a lot of change has been forced upon you, and what do you do next? She is called the Queen of Reinvention, and she helps other people, to high performance people, to actually make these transitions also. So we're waiting for her to come on. She is in Bay Area, California. And once she comes on, we're going to have a little bit of a catch-up call. But let me just tell you a little bit about her. So Dr. Sweta Chawla is a speaker, author, and life and leadership coach for highly driven professionals and groups who want to step further into their potential without compromising their integrity. And she is known as a copywriter for the soul and has a gift for getting to the heart of the matter. And you know, what's so cool, I see her here now, but I will say that when we first met, we knew that we would hit it right off. And I just want to admit her here. There we go. There we go. She should be here. She is just making her way on. So yes, I can't wait for you to meet her and hear a little bit more about her story. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, we are so on the same page this week, because what you did here is what my son did to his guitar teacher this week virtually.
That is so funny. Well, my son has hat week this week, and I said, why do all the kids get hat week? We should get hat week too.
I should be wearing a hat. Where's my hat? Oh my goodness.
I'm going to actually take this off because it's about to cover my eyes, but I just thought it was so much fun. I saw it sitting there and I said, come on. We need to bring some more joy.
I love it. I love it. Well, so my son was dressed up like a banana.
Oh my God, that's so cute.
He wanted to have a banana costume for Halloween, and certainly I don't think Halloween trick-or-treating, whatever's happening. And he's kind of getting older. He's like, I just want to go skateboarding in my banana costume and BMXing in my banana costume. And so when he went when his guitar teacher called in, I hit start on the call, and he was standing in front of the camera and he's doing this little banana dance.
That's so fun.
It was awesome. So of course the whole lesson started off with humor, and that's how we roll. So we're soulmates. I mean, come on. The soul sister thing that you were talking about. Does this hat have a name?
No, we haven't given it a name. But it is in honor of Halloween as well. I love Halloween. And so it's really funny. I won't give away the whole thing, but we were all trying on hats, and my son came up with this idea. He's like, this is the food chain. So he's going to be a shark, my husband's going to be a squid, and I'm going to be the octopus. And I just loved that creativity. And so I was like, all right, we're getting these hats.
It's awesome. It's awesome. Oh, I love it. Has he been to an aquarium? I mean, he's traveled so much. I'm sure. Where hasn't he been?
Yeah, he loves animals. He loves, insects, the whole nine. So
I love it. Oh my goodness. What a fun way to start things off. I'm just scrolling here because I want to make sure, like, I didn't write too many things down for us to chat about because I think I had already messaged you too, but I just want to make sure. But I'm so excited to know that your podcast episode has launched, and I've already had some responses from around the world from people who are like, wow, what a touching story. And honestly, like I said, when I was sharing it on social this morning or yesterday, as I was listening to it again in preparation for today, and I always like to re-listen before I actually hit publish on the episodes, I really got moved once again by your story, because when we were talking, I was like, I remember just like, oh, not expecting. I knew some of your story, but I got the finer details, and I was kind of like, wow. And I was in it, right? But then when you listen again afterwards, it just gave me shivers. It got me all teary. And to see how when you go through hard times, so much beauty can come through that. And as we were preparing for even the podcast interview, I remember you telling me of your story 15 years ago, and how we could relate on some of the losses in our lives, and how, as hard as they were to go through, they help make us who we are. They create a mission.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That is, I'm so glad that, like your feedback is just so heartwarming, and it's not easy to share the hard parts of your life, especially like we want to be joyful, we want to be happy. And I think the major transformation in the last several years for me have been around embracing the hard stuff as well. I think I kind of wanted to just overlook it, push through it, not want to get sucked in, because I think that's even from like, people that I work with, or just for anybody that I talk to, like, who wants to talk about pain and the heavy stuff, right? And there's a feeling of we're going to get swallowed.
Yeah.
If we go there. But what I have learned is you cannot get to where you need to go if you don't go there. You have to go there. And I think if you have some tools and resources and support around you, that is what really helps to be able to, what I say, get the wisdom from the wounds, without being swallowed into it. So I really appreciate your reflection, and I hope it encourages other people to not be afraid of their story, because you're right. Like, it makes you who you are, and I had another Instagram live a few days ago, and I said the thing that I think is really the problem is not the pain and suffering that we're going through in this world. It's that we're doing it alone. We think we're the only one. And that's where the suffering comes from. It's the lack of community. It's the lack of, kinship from others. And we've all gone through stuff. We just all have. So there should be no shame around it. But, if we've grown up in homes or cultures where, you got to be strong, and, you can't, owning that stuff is, somehow makes you less than, then it's hard to go there. So I want to normalize it for people as much as possible.
Absolutely. Normalizing the hard stuff, normalizing grief, making it so that in our culture, in our North American or in the Western world culture, we can talk about grief and not have to be feeling at such a loss of, oh my God, what do I say? Okay, I'm just not going to talk about it. I'm just going to let that person have their time and just totally avoid it. Instead, again, the beauty of grief is walking through it alongside of someone and hearing the stories of the person that they've lost, the memories, the beautiful things that person's left behind in the world. And it's true, people, they are at a loss, they don't know what to say. But if we can normalize that, then it can become more of a celebratory experience.
Right.
Because don't we all, when we're meant to move on from this life, don't we all want people to celebrate who we were? And maybe think about some of the good things that happen, and not just the sad parts, right? So you're so right. We have to get good at that. And I love that, you're modeling that for your son. Yes. And you're helping so many women to embrace this stuff. Because then when you can celebrate some of those hard times, watch out for when the good times happen.
I know, you can't get to the joy. You cannot get to the joy if you can't be with the hard stuff. You just can't.
Oh, like, have people ever said to you, Sweta, you're so happy, you're so lucky, things seem so easy for you because you're just happy and you just seem to handle it. They just think you're always, do they ever say that to you?
It depends on who you ask. Because if you ask my son and my husband, they will not say that. The people closest to me will not say that. But I'm sure other people have. I have heard that, like, you're so lucky. And you know what? I used to get angry about that, because I used to be like, you don't know what I've been through. You know what I mean? Like, I lost both of my parents before the age of 30. My mom had undiagnosed PTSD since I was a small child. I was, pushing her to get her back in her body because she used to cognitively disassociate, and never talked about any of that. I can talk about it now because I've gone through the process. I wrote a story, I published it in a book, I've gone through the whole grieving. It looks easy now, as I'm saying, but I just want to let you know it's been a journey to relive that experience. And but yeah, I used to get really upset about that. And then last year I actually decided to own luck. Like, I literally was like, I'm gonna own being lucky. Why should I resist that? And, one of my favorite definitions of lucky, which Deepak Chopra just repeated with Alicia Keys yesterday, and I've heard Oprah say it, is that luck is about opportunity meeting preparation.
Yes.
And I really believe it's the hard work. It's, the shadow work. It's the stuff we're talking about. That's the preparation. We think hard work is about, like, I gotta, I gotta put hours into, achieving something. Someone like me, and I'm guessing someone like you, and probably even the people that listen to this, it's probably easy for them. Like, working hard is probably kind of easy, right? But it's the relaxing, it's the letting go, it's the feeling. That is the hard stuff. And to me, that's the preparation that brings the opportunity, that creates, the things that we call, like, to be lucky.
I love how you describe that. I've not heard that before. I've heard the definition of luck is opportunity meeting preparation, but you just added a really beautiful layer to that. I love that. Yes, it's kind of like meditation or prayer, and like sitting. It's like, let's have a great day and let's just sit before we start our day. Oh my goodness, but I have too much to do and the mind's going crazy, right? But to sit, that is work. And to really tune into what's going on inside of me, what is happening. And through that sitting, that's where the real actual work you're meant to be doing can rise, and the priorities rise. And then you're also able to give yourself permission to not do some of the things that you think you're supposed to be doing. But that comes from sitting.
Yes, because you're not reliving. See, what happens is that a lot of people say, I can't meditate because, like, my mind's too busy, right? Or I'm just like, oh, it's just too much going on. And really what that's about is, like, we're reliving pain. We're reliving experiences that have not completely processed. And it's because we don't have the skills, right? We don't have the support. When are we ever told, like, yes, let's honor this, we've talked about the grief and the pain. And when you learn to do that, when you're with people that support you in doing that, your mind is not so preoccupied with trying to complete experiences or to protect you from not having pain that's already happened. And I just recently did a Live Out Loud series, 3 videos. You can see it on my Instagram, and I talk about how most of the stuff that we're afraid of, the rejection, the criticism, why we hold ourselves back, are things that have already happened to us. Like, we've already had that stuff, and we haven't actually completely processed it. We haven't completely learned, the wisdom in those wounds and those experiences. And so we're kind of walking around in life trying to, like, prove ourselves or protect ourselves. And if we can be with the hardest experiences in our life, then suddenly we're open to what I call how life is trying to lead us. You call me the reinvention queen, but I'm really the sign and synchronicity queen. And seeing the signs, hearing the subtle noises, the subtle messages that are coming, you can't notice that if you're constantly in, I gotta prove myself or protection mode.
Oh, yes. Wow. Okay. I'm processing right now what you're saying. Really, wow. Yeah. We spend a lot of time in either the past hurts and disappointments or future potential hurts and disappointments.
Correct.
And I love having space each day. And I'm not great at doing it all the time either, because I get caught up in, oh, got to be here, got to do this and that.
Oh, me too.
But really sitting with, what do I want to occur? What do I want my future to look like? And it can be hard to sit and focus on that, because you feel the resistance of, yeah, well, you tried that, didn't work. Or, well, that person tried and look what happened to them. And Yet there's so many stories of people who have achieved far beyond perhaps what you and I could imagine for our lives. And yet, why do we think we're different? There's that resistance that keeps coming up. But it takes practice. And I
Yeah.
guess how much in your work with women do you use affirmations to help support those beliefs of a better future?
So I have a book, and my book is called I Still Haven't Found What I'm Looking For, 21 Days to Clarity and Confidence. And there is it's 21 exercises essentially. And one of the days, it's early on in the book, is about getting to like kind of what the core, and I'm sure people have heard this word limiting belief that you have. And then I call let's like flip the script. And so, I do offer that to my clients, and also acknowledging everybody's different too. So I one of my secret sauces is that I just love learning. I have a science background. I'm a total mystic, and everything in between. Like one of my clients is like, anybody I've named to you, already, you know their modality. And I'm like, I'm a Gemini. Like I eat it all up. And this is, an example of like, you could look at that as being somebody who's scattered, right? You could see yourself like, I'm all over the place, or I can see that as that's my secret sauce, right? And that's one of the things that I like to focus on with my clients, is helping them to really get to know themselves in a way and help them to see like how who they are is actually how they are being led. And so the mantras are important, but more than that, I like to connect it to, really helping them to know themselves and have that self-acceptance on how they operate in the world, because we're all unique.
We are. Yes, there's no one way. And you can look at someone's story, compare it to another person's story of getting to a certain level of success, achieving a certain goal. No, nobody's done it the exact same way. We can certainly borrow bits and pieces, and there's some common threads of things that people may do, but it's going to look different for everyone. I
Yes.
love that you walk people through that. And while we're on this topic, why don't you share a little bit about the current offering you have that's opening on the 24th? Is that right?
Yes, on Saturday. On Saturday. Yeah. It's called the Permission to Play Full Out. It's a 6-week supportive sister circle, because I really believe it's very hard to do this work alone. We need people. We need people to mirror us, and I'm a firm believer that there's like there's soul people out there that have the pieces to our puzzles, and it's vulnerable to be in a group, but I think that that's really where the power is. I've seen it for myself, I've seen it with my clients, and the intention behind this group is to really support specifically women who they feel that calling in their heart. There's something that wants to be expressed through them, and maybe they know what it is. Maybe it's writing a book or publishing a podcast, or maybe it's changing their job, or maybe it's changing a dynamic in their relationship. They want to add in more trust, they want to have more self-love. And you can be totally confused to somebody who's very clear. But the real element is that you're scared to move forward, right? You don't, and a lot of it is, I don't know how, or I don't believe it's possible. And so I'm really interested in supporting people to be able to, excuse me, what I call natural leadership, because I am not interested in the old paradigm of like, we set a goal and we go for it and we follow the steps. Because what I have seen is that when we go based on like what we think is possible, or how the path that we know, it's a limited path. I really believe that there's a greater calling that a lot of women are feeling like they're stepping into. Like a lot of people that come to me, they've done the traditional thing, right? And it's a more subtle feeling that's awakening inside of them. And that's what happened to me. Like in the podcast, we talk about my own journey of being a professor for 10 years. And I literally remember waking up one morning saying, I want more. And I had no idea what that meant. I'm in a New York City apartment, skyline. I'm like, professor, I just had a baby, like more, come on. Like this is supposed to be the more, right? And so I think that we all uniquely have like a deeper calling inside of us. And my goal is to help women to be able to trust it. And so that's what this journey is about, is, and I, because I'm a scientist and I'm a practical person, even though I love the mystic and the woo and the signs and synchronicity, I'm really like, I know the need to make things kind of grounded. So I have frameworks, I have, you know, my book, I have different tools that I've used with clients to make this so that it helps people feel grounded in the process. And the results that I've, you know, when I've had people go through this program in different forms, I've done it through like VIP retreats, etc. They just have a greater sense of self. And so that the results that they're looking for, right? More money, more visibility, more connection, they happen from the inside out. And when they happen from the inside out, it's rooted. It's rooted because you know, you can visualize and do all the stuff that people tell you to attract what you want. But what I've seen is it's not sustainable. It actually doesn't, it's not sustainable. But when you're going from within and connecting and you're really grounded and then you're leading from that place, whatever you call forth, it has the strength to withstand, because there will always be ups and downs in life. There's always going to be ups and downs, but it has the strength to withstand, you know, the ups and downs. And so it's a really powerful process, and I'm just really excited to share it with people.
Oh, wonderful. So everyone who's listening can go and they can message you. They can go to, what's your website again?
drswetacoach.com. So DRSWETA coach.com. Yes.
Great. And they can go there. I will link this underneath this IGTV as well. It's also linked in the show notes on the podcast. So it's all there for you.
And I'm doing free clarity calls this week, you know, so you can go on my link in my Instagram, and whether you're joining the program or not, like, you can sign up for a clarity call, and I guarantee you are going to walk away with feeling more possibility. Whether you join the program or not, like, just do yourself a favor if there's any part of you that's resonating with what I'm sharing, because I know that's the hardest part. Like, is just, you know, taking that, like, at least for me, it was very hard, is like receiving that support, or, you know, working with mentors that I know are going to kind of take me on a level of up level, right? It's like there's the fear, there's a resistance of what is going to change in my life. A lot of people are really afraid of change. And I mean, I was terrified of change. That's why I stayed in my job for 10 years. But, you know, life is about change. It's about evolution. And again, that's where the suffering comes from, when we resist it. And we sometimes have an association with change means bad, and especially if you've been through a lot of hard stuff in your life. And so, you know, I really want to also, for those people who are afraid to change and they need that security, is to make it safe for them to know that growth and change can be really positive as well.
Yes, it can be better than we expect.
Right.
And changing is, like you say, it's nature. We are nature. Everything's constantly changing. And it's way more exciting to move into that space. But also when you're doing it really safe space and a container, and you're being guided along the process, doing it alone, there's a lot of second guessing that can happen. That's why what you're doing is so important. That's why I believe in coaching. I believe in group coaching, individual coaching, whatever the case, wherever people are at, to be able to find that clarity. And I know for me, it's very much similar to yourself. The finding of the clarity of what I really was meant to be doing was challenging, because I kept trying to fit myself into the box of what other people had done. And while, yes, there's bits and pieces that you can duplicate in your own way and kind of give them your own flavor, that's great. But what really, really resonates? And often you don't know until you're actually doing it. And there's that idea sometimes, I think, perfectionists, like, hello, recovering perfectionist over here. And good girl, right? I'm a good girl. I'm a good girl rebel, just like you. You said in the podcast, you're a good girl. I am. I'm like, ooh, want to make sure I'm loyal and dependable. And yet I want to do it my way. And a lot of things in my life I have.
Yes.
But it's like, ooh, but I don't want to make a mistake. And what if I have to change my mind? And what if, and it's like, you know what? Nobody really cares. At the end of the day, if anything, when you step out,
yes,
you are able to give other people inspiration to step out too. And Tozen John, who I interviewed recently, she's just hopped on the call, and she says, yes, clarity comes from engagement. Thank you, Tozen. It's true.
1000%.
It's so true. And yet you can hear it and hear it and hear it, but then think, well, but it's not until you try it that you really experience it.
Right.
And so this leads to the conversation about working in your zone of genius that I had
Yeah.
mentioned to you. So Gay Hendricks wrote a book called The Big Leap, and he coined the phrase working in your zone of genius. Talk to me about how you guide people to do this, what this is, and how you guide people to do this in your programs.
Okay. So to me, the zone of genius is basically, the thing that just comes completely natural to you. And it's effortless and it makes a big difference for other people. But like for you, you're like, it's so natural. You don't realize how natural it is. So it doesn't actually feel like you're doing anything. And so if you are a hard worker, if you're a highly driven person that, is kind of also like is proud of how you can work hard, doing things effortlessly can actually feel really uncomfortable. And I can't tell you the amount of times I've heard people say like, that's it, like that's it. That's like I'm like, you're getting the results just by being you. And the problem is that we don't know, like we don't see it. We can't actually see it. And it's much more of a vibration. It's an essence as opposed to like a skill. That's something that you learn, and I didn't realize this. For example, like my pharmacy days, one of my, zones of genius, which I didn't know it at the time, was I had a way of really being able to make people feel comfortable so that they could open up. And so when I was working with my patients, and I was a mentor to students, I would say like, okay, if you're taking someone's blood pressure, they're so scared and nervous about their health, right? But you start, I would just start talking to them because it's naturally who I am. I'm a curious Gemini. I love stories, right? So tell stories, and then they would just, open up their whole life, history, and they would be really relaxed and give you the necessary information that you need to be able to do the work of, looking at all their medications. Because if you don't have all the information, you can't actually serve somebody. I didn't know that that was natural to me. So there was a part of me that used to get kind of frustrated with my students even, right? Like, this is like, why are you not more empathic? And so one of the things that I really love to do with my clients is help them to identify that for them. One of my gifts is being a namer, of the subtle, like really of the subtle. So, I've had a client, for example, I had a client who was a lawyer, and, in working with her approach to law was very different than the environments that she was in. Her whole approach to law was building relationships, which is totally like, she's like, most lawyers are like, let's crush him, right? But she would actually build a relationship with, and this was something that threaded through her whole life. Okay. So it was not only in her work, it was in her personal relationship. She was a very community oriented person. And that to me is that zone of genius. It's about who you are. And a lot of people, like, especially when you're going through any reinvention and you're, trying to change your career and you're trying to lead with who you are, and you try to fit into a label or a box, right? But if you can really name what I call name your essence and realize who you are. And I love giving a name. That's one of my favorite things to do, is how you show up in your parenting. It's how you show up in all areas of your life. Then you don't feel so scattered. Like I had another client, and he was a yoga teacher, a Pilates teacher, weightlifter, and a musician. And he was in a place where he hit, like his career trajectory didn't go the way he thought. And he met me, right? He was like, I always wanted to be self-employed, but he was nervous and scared. And he has these 3-4 different passions, right? So how do I move forward? Which one, do I do? Which one's going to make money, et cetera? He's a parent, et cetera. All the things we think about.
Right.
And when we work together, I listened to how he does all of his jobs, and I could totally find the thread. And we named it as aligned attunement, which was so like beautiful because it also, embraced the physical and the music, right? Attunement and alignment. But he did the same way. Even when he played music, it was all about attuning to the energy in the audience. And when we were able to name it, he was able to move forward and create his website. He was able to do the things that was holding him back that he couldn't do because he was compartmentalizing and trying to find a label for like what he does.
Wow. And that saves so much time.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Been there. But wow, I'm just taking this in. Wow. I love it. what a beautiful gift you're offering to people. And that seeing that thread, certainly it can sometimes be easier to see what's going on in other people's lives than
Totally.
really our own, right? We have that perspective. We're separate from it. We
Yeah.
don't have all the stories in our mind of, well, this happened and you don't know about this experience. And our experiences and our stories really color and shade even our future plans.
Right.
And it's like we're like dragging garbage along with us through life when we really just need to be letting it go, like pulling the lessons out of it, filing it away, and saying, okay, it's a new clean slate today. What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve?
Yeah.
Oh, so good. So this permission circle is going to be powerful. Again, go to the website linked below. Make sure that you check it out, everyone. And I love that you have
clarity call. Sign up for a clarity call.
Clarity calls. Yes, absolutely. And before we go, although, as usual, I could sit here for hours and just go make a cup of tea, come back and hang out with you. It's my most favorite thing. Like, this is the one thing I have to say. And I don't know why I didn't think to have a podcast sooner. It wasn't that I just didn't think of it, really. It wasn't that I was against having one, but the connection with people and hearing their stories and pulling from that something that can help other people and raising the voices of other women, especially women, although I will have some men on the podcast too. I got one coming up soon. It's too easy, Sweta. It's too easy.
I know. Community.
And just chatting with people. And yet, look at the gold that comes out of these conversations.
Yes. In my video too of the Live Out Loud challenge that I was talking about, I talk about this. I talk about like that, the thing that comes easy to us, how it went into the shadow. And I share a couple of stories from other clients and how we can bring it forth. But mine was talking. Like, that was the thing that, I got told all the time, like, you talk too much, etc. And wouldn't you know it, like, that was speaking. That's my gift to the world. So that's the other reason why it's so hard. It's easy, but it's also oftentimes has been shamed out of us, and it's not been celebrated. So we don't honor it, and it's hard for us to lead with it.
Absolutely. Oh, well, I'm so glad that you have moved past that and you're embracing it and have helped so many people as a result. And before you go, although again, I could take this conversation so many more directions, I didn't ask you about, I think we ran out of time during the podcast, but I would love to hear what took you to the White House.
Oh, that is a gorgeous story. It's a really gorgeous, I'm going to try to say it as succinctly as possible. But when I was in my pharmacy days and I was like, there's something different calling me. I don't know what it is. I had a sabbatical. And so I was like, okay, here I can explore some different things. And I applied for Doctors Without Border. And during the interview, they kept on asking me, like, they were asking the deep questions, right? Because you're going to put your life on risk here. And I never had a job interview where they asked the deep questions. And all I remember was my answer I kept on repeating, I want to be part of something bigger. I want to be part of something bigger. And I ended up not getting that position or whatever, that opportunity. But many years later, there was an earthquake in Haiti. And through my university, I was invited to go on this mission trip. And so that calling was inside of me. Like, I'm a humanitarian at heart. And that's, whether it's a mission trip or humanizing, normalizing experiences, like, that's the thread for me, right? That's the essence of who I am. And I went to Haiti. And after I came back from Haiti, I went twice. And it was one of the best experiences of my life. I learned that there was a flood in Pakistan. And I'm from India. I was born in India, but my family is Sindhi. And there was a partition in 1947 where Pakistan and India split. And the town from where my family is from, where we were Hindu, so we had to leave because Pakistan became mainly Muslim, is called Sindh. And there were the worst floods. I mean, the worst floods around the world in that area. And I just had this heart pull of like, I need to go there. I just need to go there. And I contacted every organization. Nobody was going there. Going to Haiti, I could find a million organizations, but going to Pakistan, no way. I finally found an organization, and even they told me, they were like, you're American, you're Indian, you're not going to get a visa, you're not going to be able to go. And people told me I was going to get killed. Like, I was so scared, but there were these synchronicities that I couldn't deny. Like, I got my visa on the first day, and then the town that I was placed was the exact town of my ancestors, Shikarpur
Wow.
Sindh.
What was it again? Repeat it.
Shikarpur Sindh.
Wow.
And so I went, and it was, as you can imagine, a life-changing experience. The thing that I worked in a hospital, a pediatric hospital, for 2 weeks. I saw 8 children die just in those 2 weeks from the most basic things, anemia, because it takes like 4 days to get to the hospital. I mean, it was just amazing. But the thing that really blew me away was that when I arrived, there were 4 men that were our caretakers. And one of them said, "Sister, you came when the whole world forgot about us." And,
Wow.
it proved to me that that's the Make Your World Bigger. Like, that ended up being my blog for 4 years and my book. And, and I didn't know, like, that's what it would be. But I'm sharing all this background story because I just really want to emphasize, like, I really believe there's a divine orchestration out there that is calling us forth. And if we can pay attention to the signs, the synchronicities, and those types of things, it gives us the courage, to keep moving forward. And when I came back from that experience, I was asked to do all these talks, etc. And that just lifted me up to be an advocate for people, like, people who don't have, like, it just hurt me so much that these people are suffering from the world. And because of media and since, all this kind of, in my own people, like, my own people would not, support that. Like, I had people like, why are you going to Pakistan? They're terrorists, etc. All these things. And then when I came back, I was asked to speak at the White House about my experience there. I was 7 months pregnant, but to share so that they could get more aid and they could understand what was happening there. And it was just, again, like, such a powerful moment in my life that I will never forget. Mm-hmm. And, I didn't know any of those things would unfold. Like, it was that listening to that first whisper, and holding on to the bigger thing, even though the terror was there. I mean, I was shaking. Even on the plane, I was shaking.
Oh,
the fear was so bad, but there was something stronger that was drawing me forth. So yeah, that's what got me in the White House.
So powerful. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So to be able to really listen to the call and to move through the fear to the other side of it, knowing that you just know you're meant to be doing it. How amazing. I love it. Thank you so much for sharing that story. And I'm really happy to let everyone know that this talk here that we're having is at a later time going to be put onto the podcast as well. So more people can hear that story as well as what we've talked about earlier also.
That's awesome.
It's just so, I love technology. We can just reach the whole world. It's so beautiful. Oh, so I'm so glad you could join me today. And do you have any kind of parting thoughts you'd like to leave people with as they are approaching perhaps some change, some potential decisions they need to make? What's coming from your heart right now that you can share to encourage people?
I mean, in today's world, I don't know anybody that's not going through change. And the one thing that I think really, really, the lesson that I've learned, in this latest round of change, is that a lot of people experience anxiety, and it's that loss of control. And a lot of people are waiting for, like, when things will come back to normal. And really what I want to say to people is to develop that trust in yourself so that you can rest in your ability to be able to respond to anything. If you can really, really trust in yourself, if you can, and that comes from connecting to yourself, from knowing who you are, from knowing how you operate, and for celebrating it, not making who you naturally are wrong. That no matter what shows up in life, you can rely on yourself. And if you can cultivate that, I mean, I just, to me, I think that's the greatest gift you can give to yourself, to your family, and to the world. Especially women. I want that more than anything for women, because we have been taught more than, or anybody that feels different. I call my people psychedelic sheep, right? Anybody that's felt othered, you know, we have been told not to trust ourselves, not to be who we are, because I think it's so powerful. Who we are has the power to disrupt, you know, society, disrupt our dynamics in our home, disrupt. But to me, that disruption is part of evolution. It's part of evolving legacy. And so I just want to encourage any of you that are feeling that in your heart, please honor it. And if you need support, there's so many, Sheila, me, there's so many beautiful people out there. Anybody you resonate with, take a chance on yourself and allow yourself to get the support.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing
you.
that. Thank you for being here. And I will be talking to you really, really soon.
Absolutely. Sheila, you are such an amazing, thoughtful host. I mean, you can really see that wanting to uplift people through, and the amount of care that you put into all of our interactions. It's just so beautiful. So thank you for being you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for being you. We are psychedelic sheep.
and you, and everybody listening to this, and you.
Awesome. Well, yes, put that hat back on. We started with the hat. We're ending with the hat. It's hat day. Yes, I just didn't bring mine, but that's okay. We're imagining like
everybody go out and
or something.
A hat that makes you happy.
That's right. I got to go find a hat that makes me happy now. Have a fantastic day, Sweta.
You too. Take care.
Bye. All the best.